tired of running for shade? And aren't you tired of being hustled and played? And aren't we all tired of crying about how hard it is to be black in America, even if it looks like we've got it made?
Has this been difficult for you?
Yeah. Because when you watch someone who you know and love, go through what he's going through.
Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the legendary face of Theo Huxtable, is gone, and fans everywhere are still trying to make sense of it. But now, chilling new details are spilling out, and they're not just jaw-dropping, they're setting off alarms.
Really did not get along.
In real life?
In real life.
I did not know this.
Yeah. Like
okay.
we didn't get. But every single week before taping, we'd come together, we'd put our hands together, we'd bow, and we'd pray before we go out there.
What's coming to light isn't just sad, it's uncomfortable. And suddenly things aren't lining up like they should. The timeline, sketchy. The unanswered questions piling up fast.
Has its limits, so here we are, tear-streaked and salt-stained faces. Traces of trauma and pain lace our DNA like our black pride is cut and laced with self-hate.
People are starting to wonder, was this just a freak accident, or is there a deeper story we were never supposed to uncover? Let's break it all down. The entertainment world was shaken to its core when news hit that Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the beloved star of The Cosby Show, had died at 54 while in Costa Rica. Early reports claimed it was an accidental drowning, taken by a powerful rip current during what seemed like a peaceful getaway.
The 54-year-old was in Costa Rica on a family vacation and accidentally drowned while swimming.
But now, new info from the scene is painting a much darker picture. This doesn't just look like an accident anymore. It's starting to look like a disaster that could have been avoided. And the deeper you dig, the clearer it gets. This never should have happened. Authorities listed the cause of death as asphyxia due to submersion. Warner was pulled out of the waters at Playa Grande, a beach that looks like a slice of paradise. But behind those crystal waves lies a dangerous truth. That beach, locals and surfers know it well, and not in a good way. So what really went wrong? Here's where the story turns ice cold. On that tragic Sunday, there were no lifeguards on duty at Playa Grande. None. That's not just careless. It's outrageous. A popular beach with a deadly rep and not a single trained responder in sight. That's a setup for disaster. Sure, a few brave souls jumped in. A trained lifeguard, who just happened to be surfing nearby, spotted Malcolm's body in the water. A doctor vacationing with his wife rushed over, performed mouth-to-mouth, and helped get him to shore. CPR was done and AED was used, and emergency teams arrived fast. But no matter how hard they tried, it wasn't enough. Malcolm was gone. And while those people gave it their all, even their heroic efforts couldn't cover up the ugly truth. There was no real safety net in place, no lifeguards, no rescue gear, no trained emergency crew standing by. As volunteer lifeguard Sophia Cordoba put it, people were doing what they could, but they were also risking their own lives because they weren't equipped. And get this, Malcolm wasn't the only one dragged by that vicious current. Another man got pulled under the same day. He barely made it out alive and had to be rushed to a clinic in critical condition. That's not a coincidence. That's a crisis. This wasn't just an unfortunate accident. This was a total breakdown, a chain reaction of missed warnings, zero preparation, and cut corners that led to the loss of a man who still had so much to give. He wasn't just taken by the ocean, but he was failed by the very system meant to protect him. His death didn't have to happen. And now, with all this new info out in the open, calling it just an accident feels like a slap in the face. Malcolm's voice was still powerful, still needed, and now it's gone. Not because of nature alone, but because safety took a back seat. And that's why it needs to be said. Louder, clearer, and with no sugarcoating. This should have never happened. But something about the whole thing feels off. The timing, the circumstances, and especially what Malcolm shared just days before he passed. It's all just way too strange to ignore. He wasn't just out in Costa Rica to chill or escape the spotlight. He had a purpose. He was speaking out, raw, real, and unapologetic.
Can you tell me the fate of the people who consciously take the bait and embrace the very traits placed upon them by their captors who by design are inclined to keep them believing they're second rates? I'll wait.
In the final episode of his podcast, Not All Hood, which dropped just 2 days before his death, Warner didn't sound relaxed or distant. Fans now see it as a quiet farewell, a deep emotional message packed with truth. It wasn't small talk, it was urgent, honest, it came straight from the heart. He spoke about a recent convo with spoken word artist Tamika Georgia Mee Harper. She challenged the name of his podcast. When he told her it was called Not All Hood, she hit back with, "Ain't nothing wrong with the hood." And that stuck with him hard. It made Malcolm stop and really think. The media has boxed black culture into one image, always pushing the same tired hood stereotype while ignoring everything beautiful, powerful, and complex about it.
Combating the narrative of black life, black culture that the media focuses on.
He wasn't trying to distance himself from the hood, not at all. He was calling out the system that distorts it, profits from it, and refuses to truly get it. In his words, the hood side, ultimately, historically, is what has always created American culture. That wasn't just a comment, that was a call out. He was talking about cultural theft, erased history, a legacy that's been buried too long, especially in a place like Hollywood, where truth often gets filtered. And Malcolm wasn't done there. He got real about his own growth too. He admitted he used to feel weird about the phrase black excellence, like it was all tied up with chasing fame, money, and image. But something changed. What really hit him was learning how black soldiers had been left out of the records at Arlington National Cemetery. That injustice, it shook him. It made everything feel personal. To Malcolm-Jamal Warner, real black excellence had nothing to do with shiny trophies or big titles. For him, it was way deeper. It was about survival. He said it straight. Black survival in and of itself is black excellence. Just survival.
He is not a monolith. There's so many levels and lanes to the black community, and we want to have a space where we could acknowledge, discuss all of those lanes.
That line hit deep back then, but now, knowing how fast his life was taken, it cuts even deeper. It almost feels like he knew something was coming, like he was leaving us a message. That final podcast wasn't just a conversation, it was a warning, a truth bomb. Warner was shining a light on black resilience, struggle, and endurance. And 48 hours later, he was gone. Just like that. For so many, Malcolm will always be Theo Huxtable, the funny, easygoing kid who felt like a part of the family. Every week, he brought laughs, dealt with dyslexia, made mistakes, and had those heart-to-heart talks with his TV parents. He was relatable, charming, and real. And that warm energy, it wasn't just for the screen. It was him. But here's the thing. Behind that familiar smile was a man most never really got to know. There were no wild scandals, no messy headlines tied to his name. What you'd find instead was a guy who lived through quiet heartbreak, tough choices, and the weight of being part of a show that became stained by controversy. While other child stars spiraled, Malcolm kept his feet on the ground. Fame didn't break him, it sharpened him. He leveled up, not just as an actor, but as a musician, a thinker, and a whole man. He faced the storm of the Bill Cosby scandal with calm and grace. He lost people close to him and still kept pushing forward, building a career that was solid and real in an industry full of chaos. This isn't just the story of a beloved TV character. This is the story of a man who refused to lose himself, even when everything around him got messy.
Not to feel something, have some kind of emotional response to, what this person is going through.
The harshest, most heartbreaking controversy Malcolm-Jamal Warner ever faced. It wasn't one he caused. It was the one that took him from us way too soon. This wasn't a scandal Malcolm-Jamal Warner created. It was one he got dragged into because of his deep connection to Bill Cosby. And it wasn't just about bad headlines or social media backlash. For Warner, this hit way closer to the heart. It was raw, emotional, messy. He had to balance being true to himself, surviving public pressure, and watching something that helped build his life fall apart right in front of him. To really get how heavy this was for him, you have to understand just how tight he was with Cosby. This wasn't some casual working relationship. Cosby didn't just cast Warner, he molded him. At just 13 years old, Malcolm was handpicked from a national search to play Theo Huxtable. From that moment, Cosby stepped in like a mentor, maybe even a father figure. Warner used to talk about how Cosby, even at the height of his fame, never walked around acting like he was better than anyone else. That left a serious mark. Cosby gave him solid advice too. like avoiding trendy slang in scenes so the show wouldn't feel dated later on. And guess what? That tip actually worked. Years down the line, Warner said that when he rewatched episodes with his daughter, they still felt fresh. Their bond ran deeper than scripts and camera lights. It was mentorship, trust, and respect, which is exactly why what happened next was so painful for Warner to even process.
Feeling is, I feel sad for, just the way this whole, just the way the whole story has come about.
When over 50 women came forward with serious accusations against Cosby, Warner was thrown into a storm. The world was watching and people were demanding he speak up, but his response wasn't loud or one-sided. It was layered. In a 2015 interview, he said, "He's one of my mentors. Just as it's painful to hear any woman talk, whether true or not, it's just as painful to watch my friend and mentor go through this." That line exposed just how torn he really was. He wasn't out here defending Cosby, but he wasn't ready to erase him either. As Warner put it himself, "I can't defend him, but I won't throw him under the bus either." Okay, that was his truth. Complicated, honest, and real. Warner didn't stay silent when things got messy. He called out the media for turning everything into a circus. He wasn't defending what went down, but he did feel like the coverage was shallow, unfair, and all over the place. In his eyes, every accusation wasn't the same, and the way people were talking about it lacked care, context, and truth. But for him, the deepest cut wasn't just the scandal itself. It was watching the Cosby Show vanish from TV screens like it never existed. That show wasn't just a paycheck for Malcolm. It was something powerful, a rare portrayal of a strong, loving black family that broke stereotypes and shifted the culture. At a time when black families were barely shown in a positive light, the Huxtables meant everything. When the show got pulled, Warner said it felt like the legacy was turned into just a fairy tale, something people would pretend never mattered. And yeah, the impact was personal too. Losing syndication didn't just hurt his heart, it hurt his wallet. He straight up said, "It's literally taking money out of my pocket." But beyond that, he pointed out something that really made people think, why were controversial artists like Woody Allen and Roman Polanski still getting their work aired, while The Cosby Show got wiped clean off the map? It was a double standard, one that hit Warner hard. He wasn't just wrestling with loyalty and public opinion. He was mourning the erasure of something that had changed lives, especially for young black viewers who saw themselves in those characters.
Such a long path and long journey, you have something like this that you've got to...
Over time, Malcolm's perspective started to shift. At first, he admitted that the Cosby legacy had taken a major hit. But then, a heart-to-heart with his former co-star Keshia Knight Pulliam, who played Rudy, helped him see things through a different lens. She reminded him of the impact the show had, that it inspired a whole generation of black kids to believe they could be something more, to dream big, to go to college, to feel seen. Warner later said, "Her saying that really shifted my perspective." And just like that, he stopped focusing only on what was lost and started embracing the good that show had already given the world. Malcolm-Jamal Warner eventually came to believe that The Cosby Show's positive impact could still shine, even if Bill Cosby himself had fallen. That shift said a lot about Warner's growth. He didn't ignore his sadness or pretend the pain wasn't real. He felt it, worked through it, and came out with a mindset rooted in hope. His journey was raw, emotional, and straight up human. One thing that really stands out about Warner, he dodged all the usual child star chaos. While tons of young actors crashed and burned, caught up in scandals or wild behavior, Malcolm stayed grounded. And that wasn't just luck, and that was discipline. Smart choices, real self-awareness. After The Cosby Show wrapped, Warner made a conscious move to step out of Theo's shadow. At one point, he even admitted he hated being called Theo. Not because he was rude, he just wanted to prove he was more than the teenage son on a sitcom. So he put in the work. He directed shows like Keenan and Kel, dropped music, performed powerful spoken word, and even snagged a Grammy for Best Traditional R&B Performance. He got nominated for another Grammy for his poetry album too. That's not small stuff. As an actor, he didn't play it safe. He went from comedy in Malcolm and Eddie to serious roles in Suits, The Resident, Major Crimes, and even the award-winning The People vs. O.J. Simpson series. Warner's rise wasn't a fluke. It was built on hustle, smart risks, and refusing to get stuck in a box.
Because they were tired of me
fighting with the writers.
There's even a moment he talked about how writers got tired of him because he kept pushing for more meaningful stories. They were tired of me fighting with the writers. He wanted more than surface-level scripts, and he wasn't afraid to say it. But maybe the most powerful part of Malcolm's story is what didn't happen. No arrests, no public meltdowns, no wild scandals. He steered clear of all that, and he gives full credit to his mom, Pamela, who not only managed his career but taught him real discipline from day one. Even way back in the 80s, Warner had his head on straight, focused on spreading a message that mattered, even when he was just a teen in 1988. Back in the day, Malcolm-Jamal Warner dropped a book called Theo and Me Growing Up Okay, where he shared advice with young fans about staying drug-free and making smart choices. It wasn't about chasing fame, it was about being responsible. And the fact that he avoided the usual child star chaos, that's not boring, that's powerful. Warner watched other stars crash and burn, and he made sure he wasn't going down that same road. He didn't just survive the child star phase, he leveled up with intention. Every move he made was thought out. His creative work proves how much he evolved over time. That first book, it was tied to his TV days, but as he matured, his projects got deeper, bolder, and way more personal. Take his Grammy-nominated spoken word album, Hiding in Plain View. It tackled real-world issues like racism, mass incarceration, and deportation. And his 2017 short film, You Can't Hear Me, same energy. These weren't just hot-button topics, and they meant something to him. Warner has talked about how his father had him study black leaders like Langston Hughes when he was growing up. That early influence stayed rooted in his soul. It's clear this was never about staying in the spotlight. It was about saying something that mattered. Malcolm's journey from teen idol to respected artist wasn't a lucky twist. It was the result of choosing purpose over pressure. He didn't let the fame box him in. He grew into his voice, even when the industry tried to keep him in the same lane. But behind the camera, Warner also faced personal pain that shaped him in big ways, and he didn't put it on display. One of the deepest heartbreaks in his life was the loss of Michelle Thomas, his ex-girlfriend and former Cosby Show co-star. She played Justine, Theo's on-screen girlfriend. Off-screen, they were close, even after their breakup in '94. In 1997, Michelle was diagnosed with a rare form of stomach cancer. By 1998, she passed away at just 30 years old. And Malcolm, he was reportedly right there with her when she took her last breath. He never turned that moment into a public headline or media circus. It changed him quietly, but deeply. Instead of turning his pain into headlines, Malcolm-Jamal Warner carried it with quiet strength. Losing Michelle Thomas left a mark on him, and that heartbreak clearly shaped how he approached love, life, and how he carried himself in the years that followed.
What's going on? There's always a reason to smile.
But then came a totally different kind of relationship, one that played out in the spotlight. From 2011 to 2013, Warner dated actress Regina King. The two had known each other since their teen star days and even lived together. But when it ended loud. Reports claim Warner told Regina and her son to move out with no warning. And things got even more intense when Regina herself spoke out in a 2015 interview. She said Warner dumped her on Valentine's Day and then sent flowers with a note that read, "I still love you." Her response? She threw the flowers in the trash. That moment stood in sharp contrast to the quiet, heartbreaking loss he faced with Michelle Thomas. Losing Michelle had taught him how fragile love really is, but the public breakup with Regina, that showed him how ugly things can get when private moments get turned into public drama. After that whole ordeal, Warner changed. He went silent about his personal life. No more interviews, no more couple selfies, no more social media, and it wasn't out of bitterness. It was self-protection. He learned the hard way that not everything sacred needs to be shared. Some things are better left off the grid. Those two relationships, one private and painful, the other public and messy, shaped him deeply. They taught him that love is fragile and fame makes heartbreak even heavier. From that, Warner became someone grounded, private, and extra cautious about what truly mattered. Now that he's gone, fans are starting to look back and connect the dots. And one pattern keeps popping up, one that's hard to shake. Why does it seem like every time a black celebrity starts speaking up, challenging the system, or dropping real truth, something tragic happens. It's a question people can't stop asking, and it's one that's now tied to Malcolm's story too. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was stepping into a powerful new era. He wasn't stuck in the past. He was building something bold and real. With his podcast, he carved out a space to speak truthfully about what it really means to be Black in America. No Hollywood polish, no sugarcoating. It was raw, unfiltered, and long overdue. And maybe that's why his death hit like a gut punch. He wasn't just that kid from the 80s. He had grown into a man who challenged the system, someone who used his platform to spark real talk. He was pulling back the curtain, asking the hard questions, and creating room for deeper conversations. And in a world that often tries to silence truth tellers, that made him both powerful and a target.
Dope. Just like the music we're programmed to celebrate.
Let's be real. This is the same industry that lifted Warner up when he was a teenage star in the 80s, then kept him at arm's length while he built a quiet but meaningful career as a director, musician, poet, and advocate. He didn't chase the spotlight, and he chased substance. He stayed out of the gossip circles, stayed focused, and elevated every room he stepped into. And yet when he passed, silence, no big tributes, no major memorial specials, just a few whispers in the news cycle, and then nothing. For someone who shaped the childhoods of an entire generation, that kind of silence is loud. Malcolm-Jamal Warner deserved more. He deserved to be celebrated, remembered, and respected. He wasn't a headline. He wasn't a footnote. He was a man with a message, and one that called out the truth, one that made us rethink everything we've been taught to accept. And now that message is all we've got left. So before another voice like his disappears, let's actually listen. If this story moved you, don't let it fade. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and share your thoughts. We want to hear from you. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And trust, there's more to uncover. See you in the next one.